Good morning. This is the Board of County Commissioners agenda setting work session. It is Tuesday, December 6, 2022. It is 9:08 a.m. This is set to go until noon today. This is a hybrid meeting. We're in Building 1, room 280. For public virtual attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards, Vice Chair Ty Menser joining us via Zoom today. Also in the boardroom, we have County Manager Ramiro Chavez, as well as other staff members joining us for the agenda setting work session. We'll start off with our first item, which is homeless strategies.
We have Keely.
Keely,
Go ahead.
Good morning, Keely Marino with Public Health and Social Services. I just have a brief update for you today. One is the Regional Housing Council will only be holding one meeting this month, and that will be next week on Wednesday, the 14th at 4 p.m. It will be the longer meeting, so from 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. virtually, and there will be an opportunity for the public to make comment if they so wish. And the public can register to attend at the Regional Housing Council website, which is, you just Google Thurston County Regional Housing Council, you will find it. And then secondly, I just wanted to give you an update on the hazardous weather event that we had last week. I have been starting to attend the National Weather Services briefings, which is new, which is very, very helpful. So thank you to Interim Public Health Director Kurt Harden and his team over at Emergency Management, getting me involved in those meetings. And so after speaking with our Public Health Director interim and with the Hazardous Weather Task Force, we declared that Wednesday and Thursday of last week would be a hazardous weather event for extended shelter. It is intended that in the future we will be able to use Interfaith Works sprung-built structure, which will be named Sergio's Place once it is open for both pop-up day shelter as well as overnight shelter. But in a pinch, as always, First Christian Church rose to the occasion and agreed to host the shelter. So great big thanks to First Christian Church again for their generosity, and Interfaith Works was able to pull together 2 nights worth of shelter with volunteers and staff from their agency and other agencies. There were some folks that volunteered, myself and my colleague Jessica Olson also volunteered to help with that effort. With the inclement weather briefing on Friday, it appeared that the weather was going to kind of even out. However, as weather does, it shifted. And so on Sunday, we did have some more snow, but we were not able to stand up a pop-up shelter at that time, unfortunately. However, over those 2 nights of shelter, 50 extra shelter beds were occupied. And so 25 people per night, which is the capacity of that room. So with very little warning, about 2 hours worth of heads up, we were able to fill that shelter with 25 bodies. So just a shout out to Interfaith Works team also for being able to pull it together so quickly. And then the public donated many, many items to help with that effort as well. So just overall, a very successful event. Wish it could have been longer, but we just could not make that happen this time. So that is all. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menser?
Yeah, Keely, can you remind me on Sergio's Place, the sprung structure, that I understood that's the name that you just said?
Yes.
Okay, good. I know Interfaith Works and the county are big partners. Are there other partners that are involved in standing that up, or is it an Interfaith Works county endeavor?
I believe City of Olympia partially. I would have to double check that, and then otherwise it's just us.
And what is the timeline for the opening of that?
We're hoping that it opens in January.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's very exciting.
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Keely. Next is the review of the Board of County. Did you have a question? Okay. Next is the review of the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for our meeting of December 13th. Today we won't have a regular meeting, but we have public hearings starting at 1:30. So for today at 1:30, the first public hearing at 1:30 is the biennium midterm budget, transportation, environment and land use, community planning and economic development and public works. At 2:30, the next public hearing is scheduled is for health and human services, public health and social services, and emergency services. At 4 o'clock will be the start of the next one, which is revenue to support the budget. At 5 p.m., it will be public hearing to consider increases to Thurston County water and sewer utility rates. And at 6 p.m., it's an open public testimony, and it will be a biennium midterm budget open, just an open public testimony. If you missed the 1:30 through 5, or would like to comment on yesterday's as well. So with that, we'll go on to review our meeting of December 13th, 2022.
So if I may, Madam Chair, there is a little bit of a unusual sequence of events for next week. So on your packet, you have Tuesday, December 13th, Board of County Commissioners meeting having one item, and that is for 9 in the afternoon, and 9 in the morning, I'm sorry. And this is for you to consider approving the resolution adopting the budget amendment number 2. The reason as to why it says 9 o'clock, there was a typo in issuing the public notice, and the public notice included the 9 in the morning on Tuesday the 13th. That is what is included in your packet. I believe the board has already gone through the details of the budget amendment for 2022, but the summary is included in your packet. So if you have any questions, either Nicole or myself are available to answer any questions, but that's a little bit of off track as we usually have this, so that's the reason why we have this 9 o'clock meeting.
Okay, any questions on that 9 a.m. meeting on December 13th?
Yes,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I just want to clarify, normally that would take place when?
Normally, we'll have an item on your regular 2 o'clock meeting in the afternoon.
If we were having a 2 o'clock meeting.
No, this next week you do have a 2 o'clock meeting,
Okay,
but the public notice for this particular item.
oh, instead of
was-
2 o'clock, it had 9
Was
o'clock.
listed at 9 o'clock
I
on
see,
the 13th.
okay,
Yeah.
just a mistake, right?
Yeah, yes, sir. It was a typo in the public notice, sir.
And so then our agenda setting will be starting at 9:30 a.m.
That is correct.
And then we will start our regular Board of County Commissioners at 2 p.m. So at 2 p.m., we'll call this meeting to order. The Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards and the approval of the Tuesday, December 13th, 2022 agenda. Later, there's an opportunity for the public to address the board and county manager's update. Any questions or comments on that?
No questions.
Okay, so consent items.
Madam Chair, on the manager's update, I would like to take the time to give a little bit of a year-end review.
Okay.
So I will take a couple minutes to go through that. And I will highlight some of the accomplishments by the departments, in this case, next year. I would like to extend that to have more a year-end review, including the offices. So this is the first year that we're gonna practice that. And so that will be part of my report. Next.
Okay.
I'm sorry, do you have any questions?
Any questions on that?
No questions, thank you.
I guess I would say tread carefully. I know that some offices are very particular.
So I will be highlighting this just the department's accomplishments.
Perfect. So it's just the departments that are gonna be highlighted. Okay. Consent items, 3A through 3H. First one is from the auditor's office, approval of the voucher list for the week of October 31st, 2022.
Yeah, Madam Chair, for your consideration, this is for the board to approve the October 31st voucher list for a total amount of $3,029,024.50. And this is on your consent agenda because we do not have any interim related expenditures.
Any questions on item seven?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Mentor?
No.
Okay. Moving on to 3B, Community Planning and Economic Development Interlocal Agreement Amendment for Voluntary Stewardship Program.
This particular item, Madam Chair, will be a department item, and this is because of the dollar amount involved on this. So you will see this on your department item. So this particular amendment is an interlocal agreement with the Thurston Conservation District to complete the technical assistance and any other monitoring work for the voluntary stewardship program. So we are going to be necessary to $251,162 for a total amount payable, which is an increase. And this performance of this contract is from October 11, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. The total compensation and is, I believe, $401,162. I think I need to revise my statement. The current interlocal agreement is $150,000. If you add the $251,000, that's the total for $401,000. This is a long-standing agreement that we have with the Thurston Conservation District, and it is pretty much a pass-through money, and it's not involved any general fund money. We have Ashley Array here on Zoom, if you have any questions related to this item.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Mensah?
I don't have a question, but I would suggest maybe, or propose that the board in 2023, early in 2023, get a briefing on the voluntary stewardship program. Like, what is it doing? What projects has it undertaken? How successful have they been? How successful in comparison to the voluntary stewardship programs of other counties in terms of number of projects and any sort of metrics or measurable successes? I'd like to know more about it. I always hear about it in passing, but I don't really get a handle on how it's operating in our county. So if my seatmates would be amenable, I think that would be very useful.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, good idea. We'll work on that, sir.
Okay, so moving on to item C from District Court, interlocal agreement for District Court Services.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This particular item has a couple of elements. As you may be aware, Thurston County District Court provides services to the cities of Tumwater, Lacey, Yelm, and Rainier. And that includes all the services associated with the proceedings of District Court. The current agreement lapses at the end of this year, December 31st, 2022. This proposal is for you to consider renewal those agreements, again, with the cities of Tumwater, Lacey, Yelm, and Rainier. And that will take us all the way to December 31st, 2026. Frankie Peters, myself, have met with the leadership of all the cities, and they all are in agreement on this proposal. And we will ask you, the board, to consider approving those agreements with the cities. Any questions?
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
And this is just gonna cover costs?
Just cover costs.
The court incurs?
Yeah, and it includes all the staffing, all the proceedings, and everything else associated with cases generated within the city boundaries of the three cities. So
Is it gonna change the revenue picture at all of what's coming in that we, that pass through to?
No,
District
I don't
Court?
believe so. I think it's a small adjustments, but nothing significant. And
Thank
Frank is here to answer any particular questions.
No, just as long as it doesn't make any big changes, that's all I was wondering.
Questions, Commissioner Mensah?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, no questions for me.
Thank you, Frankie.
Moving on to emergency services, emergency medical services council bylaws.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your consideration. Is for you to approve changes on the EM and the Emergency Services Council bylaws. And at the regular EMS Council of April 2022, the council voted to recommend changes to the existing bylaws, particularly to the Article 5.1, which changes the terms of the officers from 1 year to 2 years. That's in essence most of the changes. And the board is required to take an action in changing those bylaws. Ben is here to provide additional perspective and answer any questions.
Anything you'd like to add?
Nothing that I'd like to add. You'll notice that April 4th was when the action was taken. We need these to take effect before elections in January, and we held on to this until now, just in case we had any additional changes we needed to make to the bylaws.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I heard April 4th, but it says April 20th on my,
Oh, sorry, that was my bad. April 20th is when action was taken by the EMS Council.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Okay. Next item is from Emergency Services as well, and it's private ambulance license renewal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a yearly request the board considers, and this is for you to approve the license renewal applications of Olympic and AMR ambulance companies to operate here in Thurston County. And this is the yearly renewal license that needs to occur in accordance to Chapter 6 of the Thurston County Code. There's a $100 fee application that needs to be submitted. And I think we're at the point of you consider the renewal licenses for 2 outfits to continue operating in Thurston County.
Thank you. And anything you'd like to add?
Not at this time, Commissioners.
Commissioner Edwards, question?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Menzer, questions?
No questions.
Okay. Moving on to item F from Human Resources, a resolution amending the Thurston County at-will food plan.
So I briefly give the board a heads up, maybe a couple of weeks ago. I have a copy of this, and I share a copy with you, Commissioner Menzer, when you come to the office. This is a proposal for you to consider amending the at-will pay plan and at-will policy. And this really is an attempt to help on the recruitment aspects of the at-will positions. If you flip the page, the particular item that we are asking the board to consider is a couple of changes. One, on the relocation cost, it goes from $3,000 to $5,000. And also we have a hiring bonus and for up to $15,000 for those particular positions included on the at-will plan. This is a strategy that Maria, our HR director, and I have been working in an attempt to go through allow those key positions to help give flexibility to offices and departments on their recruitment aspect. We have also been discussing another policy related to retention. And that retention policy is coming up for your consideration maybe early next year. And some of the proposals may have to be negotiated with the unions. And at least from my point of view, I didn't want to bring both to your attention because this, I believe, needs an immediate attention from your perspective. And I will ask the board to consider approving this policy. Any questions?
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
My only initial question would be the $15,000 bonus. Does that come out of the budget process for that?
Yeah, it is stated
Area.
in here, they have to absorb that within the current budget, and they will not be asking any budget amendments.
Okay.
So each office and department will, if they have the capacity, this is an option for them to exercise.
Commissioner Menzer, questions?
No, thank you.
I do have a follow-up to what Commissioner Edwards asked. I'm guessing the way departments would pay for this would be out of savings,
Yeah,
salary savings, right? But if the year ends and this is in a 24, how would they absorb that? I'm guessing they would absorb the first 12 installments, and then after that, I'm wondering about that second year of installments and how that would work out.
This is only a one-time. So the 15,000 is a one-time signing.
But it says here that the bonus will be paid during the first year of employment and 24 equal installments.
That's an option, whether you can carry through the 24 months installments or not. But I think you bring in a good question. Whether, for instance, if you hire that individual in November, right?
Yeah,
And you go through the 24-month installments, that will take in 2023. I think the same will apply. They will have to rely on salary savings for 2023 to make this happen.
okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah,
Because I think that's a great question. If this carries through the 2-year.
that's kind of, yeah, because that's where,
The same will apply. They will be in the position to make sure there's enough salary savings in the upcoming year to cover that.
okay. So they're only able to do this if they have enough salary savings.
Right.
I just see those budget amendments coming through
Yeah.
because
Well,
they're.
and that is probably very clear in here, the approval process that needs to go through HR, and the county manager will eventually approve this with the assurance they will be covering, they have enough salary savings to cover that. That is really the assurance of this. It gives a little more flexibility. And I believe some of the offices and departments are looking for that type of flexibility, and that is the balance that we achieve with this policy.
So I don't know if there can be like some clarification, because the way I'm reading the hiring bonus part is that it will be over the 24 installments. But you're saying they can, either do it all at once or that's an option. But
We can clarify that, that's good. Yeah, Maria, you can.
And would that say up to 24 months maybe, so they'd have an
Yeah.
option? Is that what you're thinking? Yeah.
So if I can clarify, one of the reasons for paying it in installments is that then we don't have to get into any agreement with the employee. If we pay it upfront and they leave before a year, then they would have to repay us the portion of the months they didn't serve. So that helps with that. And the policy also says that the employing authority has to outline the reasons for the request as well as their capacity to absorb it. So if we're in a year where we're starting a new budget, that would be part of the documentation, is how are they going to absorb $5,000 or whatever the bonus is in that.
So, but Maria, that's a good point. I think adding up to 24 months will be a good idea. If there's any additional concerns with that, we could probably add additional language. But spreading this out for 24 months may be a little bit too tasking.
It's 24 pay
24
periods, so it's a year.
Yeah.
It's a year.
So
Yeah. But because there's 2 pay periods each month, it would be paid off in each pay period.
let's work on a little more flexibility on the timing of that. Yeah, so good points.
okay, those are my only. And I don't see commission, that's it. And so, okay, we'll move on to our next item, which is emergency services, item 3G, public health, a resolution of classifying position 40R01030 in Thurston County Pay Classification Plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the overall strategy to help the Department of Public Health and Social Services
So
with health
it's not-
financial strategies.
It's not emergency services, so the
Oh,
department
no,
needs to
sorry.
be
Yeah,
changed.
sorry. I think he carries that title. It's Public Health and Social Services. And this is for your considerations to reclassify the position from the grants and contracts analyst to a fiscal manager. I believe the board has been briefed in many occasions the dire need to continue to have the financial needs addressed and assessed to the on the department, and this is again one of the steps on the overall plan to address that need. The particular action will result in increasing the salary from $7,879 to $8,455. That will be an increase of $576, or 7% increase. And that will be covered by the many different funds of the public health and social services, including the Foundation of Public Health. Kurt is here to answer any questions or provide additional perspective.
I'm Kurt Harden, Interim Director for Public Health and Social Services. The county manager gave a good summary. I have nothing else to add unless you have questions.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Only from the county manager, maybe, are you getting close to a solution for Kurt's situation?
Yes, and in fact, that will be the position to announce here in a couple of days, the new leadership in public health and social services. Which I know Kurt is so happy, so does I. But yes, thank you. More to come on the specifics.
Okay.
Questions, Commissioner Munster?
No, as long as this is in line with the discussions we've already had about the plan for the financial management upgrade that we're looking for.
Yes, sir.
That is correct.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. I guess my question is this position, is this one of the empty positions or is it already filled and it's just going to be?
It's already filled and that person already doing that.
Okay,
The
so-
grants manager that just doesn't allow to.
Okay, so it's just expanding
Yeah,
that.
it's just maximizing the opportunities that you have within the department.
Okay. Okay, moving on to item H, Public Health and Social Services, appoint Northwest Resources to Criminal Justice Treatment Account Local Panel. And this is a discussion we've had in regards to this appointment. Go ahead, County Manager.
That's a follow-up to the discussion the board had. And this is an appointment for you to consider of the Northwest Resources Incorporated to serve on the Criminal Justice Treatment Account as a local panelist, also known as a CJTA.
My only question there would be how come it's not on the consent calendar?
It is in the consent calendar.
Oh, it is? I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, I think that's where we're at, yeah. Good. Never mind,
It's a long
sleeping
agenda.
at the switch.
Okay, questions, Commissioner Munster?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I was thinking department items already. Moved down too fast.
Okay, so now we're going into department items. Items 4A, 4B, and 4C from the auditor's office, and these are the approval of the voucher list for the week of November 7th, November 14th, and November 21st. County Manager?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Item 4A, there is the voucher list for November 7, 2022 for a combined amount of $1,094,189.19. There are expenditures related to the atrium on page 20. Item 4B will move to the consent agenda for next week because there are no atrium-related expenditures, so this item will be moved back to consent. And item 4C is for the voucher list for the week of November 1st, 2022 for a combined amount of $1,381,640.20, and there are atrium-related expenditures on page 13.
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner
No
Edwards?
questions.
Questions, Commissioner Munster?
No.
Okay, moving on to Commissioner's item 5A, a resolution to join the Stepping Up Initiative.
So I'm pretty happy to present this item, and Leah Landon is going to join us here to the table. And this has been a brief discussion. We'll have that discussion before you came to the board, Commissioner. At some point, we explored the option of join the Stepping Up Initiative. And what it does is allow us to access resources related to the law and justice related activities. When Leah came, I asked her to further explore this option now that we have somebody who can carry through this and many initiatives on the law and justice. I think it was right to bring this particular item to your attention. This has been addressed and presented to the jail resources team. And all the partners within the jail resource team are very excited to provide recommendations to the board to support this particular activity. So I don't want to, steal the thunder from Leah's presentation, but if you can give us a perspective as to what this initiative does.
Yeah, absolutely. So like the county manager said, we're very excited to be bringing this forward. It was discussed several years ago and there just wasn't really a position in place to bring Stepping Up forward throughout the county. Stepping Up is a nationwide initiative that is run by the National Association of Counties in collaboration with the Council for State Governments. And they work together throughout the country to provide resources to counties as they work to reduce the population of mentally ill individuals within their jails. So once you join the Stepping Up initiative, you have access to other counties that are doing the same thing. Here in Washington State, Thurston County is one of 2 counties in the I-5 corridor not currently signed up for the Stepping Up initiative. And we're actually lucky enough to have a couple of counties such as Island County that are considered innovator counties. So they've already demonstrated improvements in this population and how they manage that population in their county through the Stepping Up initiative. So it's very exciting. Island County came and spoke to the jail resource team as well. And the first step to joining the Stepping Up initiative, is signing a county resolution. And so that is why we are bringing that to you all today. And like the county manager said, the jail resource team is in unanimous agreement that they support joining Stepping Up.
So there's not a financial commitment on this resolution, just to be clear. There is not financial, they will have to pay or join fee or nothing. This is really just be part of this larger consortium of counties that really will allow us to share ideas as to how we can help the law and justice individuals involved within law and justice. So this is something that we explored again, as Leah mentioned, and a few years ago, and I think it is time for the county to step up and join this effort. So
It's basically just a mutual aid agreement?
in a ways, it's forming this larger group that will allow to the free flow of information from all the different counties who have joined this Stepping Up initiative.
Any reason they can't do that now? I mean, I'm not against this. I'm just trying to figure out what is gonna be the end result as a benefit to the
So
taxpayers.
I think it formalizes the commitment of the county to address those issues. That's really what it does, this resolution.
But we still need to make sure these folks get mental health
Oh,
treatment
yeah,
and such.
that continues, but I think this is one step forward to formally have a commitment to have a holistic approach as to how we're gonna be helping those individuals involved.
And then at some point, will we have a follow-up briefing, if you will, to talk about successes and what success looks like? and such?
Absolutely, maybe in the summer or fall next year.
Yep.
If the board approves, we can bring back a formal briefing to see what we have accomplished as a result of this action. Yeah, I think that's a great one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Mensah, questions?
Leah, wasn't there a, I can't remember, I don't have my notes handy, but it was like 4 indicators or metrics that you're sort of focused on, that you're trying to improve on these 4 things. Anyway, that's kind of, maybe you could, if you have that information handy, it might be useful to Commissioner Edwards. I'm, just basically underlining what the county manager already said. This discussion, everybody was really supportive back in 2019, I think it was, but everyone's kind of like, well, do we really have anyone that can really make use of this resource? So I'm excited about it because it's a way for us to make use of the commitment we've made to Leah's position in the county, because that's exactly what her position kind of was designed to do, among other things. But I mean, we now looked at it and said, yeah, we now have somebody that can bring resources forward and make use of this tool. And so I think we're in a good position to step up, as a county manager said.
Yes, Commissioner, there are the 5 different key measures through Stepping Up. I did just get the updated one-pager from the Stepping Up initiative this morning, so I can print out copies of that for you when I step away from the table, and I'll bring them out to you so you have a hard copy of those and you can see those 5 key measures. But they include reducing recidivism, reducing the number of mentally ill individuals in the jail. So I will again print that hard copy out so you have it as well.
Not adding an additional workload on the corrections officers.
So my question would be is, you said this would be basically just formalizing what the county's already doing. So what would be the difference? Is it just more of a data tracking for us, or what will be the difference between what we're doing now and through this initiative?
I believe that is accessing resources at the national level. And that is really what the key advantage of this. And by accessing resources, we'll know what other counties, not just necessarily in Washington State, have been successful implementing specific strategies, but nationwide. And that is really the key. I wish they can have the map, because in the map that I saw, there are many counties and organizations across the country have stepping up. And what creates is this larger hub of sharing best practices. And that's really what it is.
So it's more of a data collection.
Yeah, data collection, the best practices, because at this point we don't have access to the best practices because we have not stepped up yet.
And
I just have to add that.
And so there would be no cost associated with this?
No cost whatsoever. And I think the cost will be is Leah's has already covered under her functions of the position that he holds to bring all that together, but nothing outside of that.
So we'll have like strategic plan 7 is why we're going to move forward on this or something. Is that right? I can read your mind.
Perhaps.
Okay.
And I brought up the map. If you would like, I can show you all the map of the counties that are currently.
We need to show that to the public.
Oh, sorry, okay.
And
I
we
was
can-
very
maybe-
excited.
Maybe we can print that.
Yes,
and
I
show
can print that as well.
Thank you, Leah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to just say one thing.
Go ahead, sir.
Don't take our questions as if we're not concerned about what you're doing. We're just trying to be more knowledgeable.
No, I absolutely understand.
Yeah, because we're thrilled that you're gonna try and help us solve some problems. To what extent, I guess we'll find out.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Leah.
Okay. Next, from the Commissioner's Office still is item 5B, interlocal agreement between Thurston County and the City of Olympia. And this is in regards to the home fund.
Yeah, finally we got to this point. As you may recall, Commissioners, the board passed a resolution adopting the home fund early in the year. And one of the directions that you had to me, to the county manager, is to bring the home funds from the City of Olympia to the county, and that will be as part of the discussion at the regional level through the Regional Housing Council. It has taken us a little while to get through the level of detail in the specific language on this agreement. And also we have been bringing this parallel process because we also need to address and amend the Regional Housing Council interlocal agreement. So we have come to a conclusion on agreeing on the language between the county and the City of Olympia. And this is the last step in the process we need to consider. Last meeting with the Regional Housing Council, we're going to be introducing the amendments to the Regional Housing Council interlocal agreement that matches this particular home fund strategy as stated on the ordinance that you passed early in the year, the board passed in a majority basis. So finally, we're here. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. But I think it's something the board has been expecting for a few months now.
Thank you. Questions?
No
Commissioner Edwards?
questions, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
So Are the parameters essentially what we had contemplated originally? That I know that like Olympia had certain projects that were already had commitments and there was a carve out there, but then otherwise the money would be considered kind of as a collective pool. Is that
Yeah,
where we're at on that?
yeah, the parameters in which the board approved, that has not changed whatsoever. It was more agreeing on the language as to how the subcommittee representation will be done. And I think that's probably take us a little while to navigate through that, changes on that language. That's where we're here. And I think the parallel process of the interlocal.
Sorry, I'll have to step away and I'll be right back, but go ahead without me.
Okay.
So, as the parallel process with interlocal agreement with the Regional Housing Council that brings those two together. Really happy to get to this point, to be honest with you.
Great. And then can we get a copy of the interlocal agreement?
Yeah.
Just for commissioners' review?
We'll make a copy, absolutely. Jamie, can you?
Okay. Item 5C is 2023 property tax levy certification.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This afternoon, you have the public hearing related to the revenue related to the 2013 budget amendment, budget adjustment. So as required by law, as required by RCW 8452-070, the legislative authority is required to certify the amount of property tax levy to the county assessor no later than December 15 of each year. And also you need to hold a public hearing, which again is going to be held this afternoon. And also include within the certifying of the levy, which the certification of the levy includes all the junior districts, not just the county. And early in the year, earlier in the month, late November, I believe, Jamie have worked through all the many junior districts to bring their levy certification. We testify, we assert that, and send a copy to the assessor for review. And this is the last step in the process because the county legislative authority, you, has the requirement to certify the levy related to the general fund, the roads, medic one, and the conservation futures to be collected in 2023. Would you like to do anything else?
No, I think you did very well. There's nothing else to add. This is just a certification of the 2022 property taxes that will be collected in 2023, as the county manager has mentioned.
Questions, Commissioner
No
Edwards?
questions, thank you.
Okay. Moving on to central services, item 6A, extend landscape contract with Monarch Landscape Companies, Washington LLC.
Before you, Madam Chair, you move into this new item, central services, under the commissioners items, you will see a new item. And that new item is for you to consider approving the boundaries of the 5 commissioners. We have set up a public hearing for Wednesday, tomorrow at 3:30 in the afternoon, where you will be receiving public testimony. And the next step in the process is related to that is for you to take action next week. I do want to be presumptions. Tomorrow, after the public hearing, we will adopt the 5 commissioner districts. But I think is important to go through that process. Depending on the public testimony that we may have tomorrow, I have already scheduled a meeting on Thursday just to see if any, to go through any particular comments that may result in changing the boundaries as presented to you. So this is step in the process, so you will see an item for your consideration next week. The Port of Olympia used the same boundaries. They held a public hearing. As I understood, they had maybe just one comment, not necessarily changing, more about asking a little more about the process. And I believe the Port of Olympia will be in the position to approve those boundaries on Monday on the regular meeting. And this particular schedule has been outlined to the redistricting committee as well as to the board in the last few weeks. So we just follow up the schedule. Any questions?
This is, and it's listed where?
You're gonna see a new item.
It'll be added
Added
on
to
right here
the-
under the commissioners.
Yes, so I want to make sure that that is in your radar
Okay.
for next week.
So that will be after the public hearing tomorrow. Okay. Moving on, central services, okay. Now we're going on to item 6A, which is extend landscape contract with Monarch Landscape Companies, Washington LLC.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Back in December 2019, the board authorized to conduct a competitive bid process to award the contract for landscape services. The result of the process, we awarded the contract to Northwest Landscape Services, and it was for a 2-year period. Also, the contract, which lapses December 31st, 2022. Also, this contract allows to renewal for up to 2 additional years. And we believe the county has been satisfied with the performance of the Northwest Landscape Services, and we ask the board to consider renewal for another 2 years. They will include in 2023, the overall cost will be $160,513.24, and 2024 will be $165,476.01. This is already included on the overall budget. No need to adjust any particular budget allocations. And just to give a perspective, they provide services, landscape services to the courthouse campus, building 1 through 7, as well as in the juvenile court, corrections facility, the coroner's office, emergency services, public health social services, Taylor Road campus, Wheeler Road, and the Monument complex. And Jason is here to answer any particular questions.
I believe County Manager covered it all. I'm here if you have any questions.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
As part of the motion on the action, wouldn't we normally name the outfit? I mean, we've got it in the description, but
Okay.
for the motion itself, don't we normally?
Yes, sir, thank you. We'll add to Northwest Landscape Services. Yeah, thank you for catching that.
Okay. I don't
That's
have any
it. That
questions.
was it.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, next is Community Planning and Economic Development, item 7A, contract authorization for Alliance for Healthy South Sound Coordination.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a continuation of the partnership that we have with the Puget Sound Partnership, in which the county serves as a fiduciary, a fiscal agent for the Alliance for Healthy South Sound. This particular contract is for $125,000 per year for 3 years, for a total of $375,000, and we ask the board to consider approving this contract. This is intended to coordinate the development of Puget Sound salmon recovery actions for the Puget Sound action agenda. And this funding is coming again from the Healthy South Sound, and it's no county-related funds that will be supporting this particular action. Brad Murphy is here to have answer any questions or additional perspective.
Questions? Commissioner Edwards?
No, usually Commissioner Menzer keeps us up on this. But I don't have any questions if you didn't have any.
Yeah. Okay, moving on with emergency services, item 8A. This is FFY 2022 agreement with U.S. Department of Interior for operation and maintenance of river gauges.
Before we go into this item, you will see another item, if I may, that is not included on your agenda, and that will be from Public Health and Social Services. We just received a green light from the Department of Commerce, where we'll be actually getting an agreement to implement rental assistance on an ongoing basis. And I believe as a result of the recording fees, the state passed early in the legislative process this year. And within that context, the county needed to apply for this dollar amount. We have it. We get the, we have the green light, and you will see this item next week. And we will walk you through, I will walk you through in more details as to the amount, the intended purpose, but it's really is the rental assistance to have an ongoing basis. It's not related to the emergency rental assistance, it's more the ongoing basis that we have been working on. So you will see this item next week as well, and I just got a note this morning, that's what it's not included in your agenda.
Okay. Questions, Commissioner Edwards? So I do have a couple questions on that. So are we going to be receiving more funding?
So I think House Bill 1266, don't quote me that number. The legislature increased the document recording fees for $100. Out of the $100, there was a portion they wanted to do for rental assistance. Each county needed to apply through a grant proposal. We did that, and that is the first step. There's another wave as part of the same. There will be an allocation to the county on the long term. So it was two parts of this funding. They came to be. One, they release a portion of the revenues associated with the $100 document recording fee, which is rental assistance, more of a grant proposal process. But the rest is coming up, and I believe we kind of may receive close to $3 million as a result of that in the long term. So it's a two-step process. Did I describe that?
Okay. Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Okay, so that will be the new item from Public Health and Social Services. Moving on to Emergency Services, item 8A, FFY 2022, agreement with U.S. Department of Interior for operation and maintenance of river gauges.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is again a yearly contract. The work considers approving. And this was from October 1st, 2022 through September 30, 2023 for a total cost of $29,725. As you stated, Madam Chair, this is to coordinate with the Department of Interior the gauges that we have in the chutes and the Skookumchuck rivers. It will allow us to see the fluctuation of the water levels, which give us an opportunity to have more of an emergency response. And in the past, you have seen some of the graphics when we have a potential flood event, how when the river crests or when they respect to flooding stages and everything else, this is related to the gauges that we have. They give us the data to have those predictions when we face some particular flooding events. There's a coordination between emergency services and CPED, and all those amounts are included in the upcoming budget, baseline budget. Kurt, Ben, you'd like to add anything?
That was a wonderful overview, County Manager. I'm sorry.
You're killing it.
And let me get questions.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards? Questions, Commissioner Menser?
I don't think so. Nope.
Okay. So with that, we'll move on to item 9A from Information Technology Contracts with Avocet for the permit tracking system.
The next few items for your consideration related to some of the items that you have been tracking that perhaps you haven't authorized. But the first item, 9A, I'm personally really relieved that we came to this point, and this is for you to consider award the contract to Avocet for the implementation of the permit tracking software. And this is the intended software that will replace the Amanda system. And through the whole conversation, there's going to be consolidating a lot of activities, will allow us to really be more flexible in processing, permitting activities with the applicants. We talked about the e-inspections. Right now we have e-inspections, but this really is going to help us a little more streamlined process. and really will consolidate all the permitting process into a single hub, and that includes CPED, Public Works, and Public Health. As you may recall, this was listed as priority number 1 by the board to get through and replacing this particular software. We're finally here, and we asked the board to consider awarding this contract. Also, this contract includes an ongoing maintenance for the next 10 years. As any other software, we need to have that support in order to be successful, and also keep up with the many different changes and updates and upgrades this particular software will do. This is a long-term process because the board approved the issuance of request for proposals back in March 2021. It has taken a little while to work as to how we're going to be defining the needs that we have in order to select the right consultant to bring this forward. Sherry L is here to add additional perspective or answer any questions.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
So the $400,000 a year for licensing and maintenance,
Licensing and support.
and support, are we going to be spending $400,000 more, or because we're not going to be using Amanda, and maybe we're giving them $300,000 or something? I'm trying to figure out, is it going to be $400,000 more than we're doing today with Amanda?
So I don't think it will be, my humble perspective, I don't think we can compare what the Amanda system is right now versus where we are. We are, and you have an item down the next as to how much we pay for the Amanda system is on a yearly basis. So that will be going away.
Okay, that's kind of what I'm wondering.
The intent of the Amanda system will
Is
eventually go away.
It's gonna go away, and we won't have the licensing fee there.
Right.
And that's what, $86,000 a year?
Right.
So really, this is costing us $300,000 for this new system, just to have the maintenance and support and
Right.
licensing. And hopefully that's gonna make us much more efficient, I guess.
I think the efficiencies are gonna be there, but mainly is really what I call is the permit system will be open to the new technology that will allow us to process applications online. And I believe one of the key elements is an applicant will see specifically where that application is in the process without having to call, without having to come to the counter. They will be able to access their application and see where they are in the process specifically.
No, I agree, the system we need, but the extra $320,000 or whatever it's gonna be. I don't recall discussing the ongoing, I remember discussing the purchasing of this technology, but I don't recall that extra $400,000. That's kind of catching me off guard.
Because you don't, yeah, you're right, you probably we didn't have a conversations on the ongoing maintenance, and this is the result of the negotiations on the contract.
Okay.
And this already included, obviously, the purchase of the applications, including the budget, and the ongoing maintenance will be allocated as part of the internal rates, IT internal rates on mainly the 3 departments they will be using.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
Would you
questions?
like to add anything on this? I didn't want to steal your thunder.
It is very exciting to see this finally come forward. This is a software as a service cloud hosted solution, and some of those additional costs come from the fact that it is being hosted by our vendor.
They're gonna hold us hostage in the future.
Well, Commissioner, we're just living in this environment. We have to depend on everybody else.
Living the new way of doing business, okay. Okay.
Questions, Commissioner Mensah?
Yes, so, okay, so $400,000 for licensing, are we going to get this, are we going to now have a whole series of staffing requests from the different parts of our government that are using it like we did with e-Defender and e-Prosecutor and some of the other, and the ERP and all of that?
And if you did receive a couple of requests, this budget conversation was from environmental health, as you may recall. And the board approved for a 5-year temporary position to get through this process and determine what would be the long-term needs of that position. So, yeah, the board already made some preliminary decisions on that. And I don't expect the CPID will come. I think they have already stuff in place. And certainly Public Works also has enough resources.
Okay, and then Avocet is the vendor's name? That's not, is that what are we gonna call this system instead of Amanda? Does it have a name that we're gonna shorthand that we're gonna use?
That is, yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
the software itself is called Excella. Avocet is the vendor that's going to help us implement it and host it. So I would say maybe Excella.
Excella, okay. And then I know earlier in this process, we were engaging stakeholders to make sure that we understood what functionalities would be most important for them. And I'm wondering, did that information that we collected and developed translate into the product, or, you know, versus a one size fits all, here's what you get, and we couldn't afford the bigger version, so now we're going to be just kind of using the basic functionality versus the more tailored functionality, which was the original vision, to try to meet the needs of what our community members wanted to see, like the master builders, et cetera, like the people that would be most using the system on a daily basis.
We have gathered all those requirements, and part of the implementation costs will include configuration of the system that will help meet those needs. They're pretty flexible these days. There's a lot of configuration, which allows them to be pretty flexible.
And to add to that, Commissioner, great question. And one of the reasons to why it has taken a little long to go through this process is because we have engaged some of the stakeholders to make sure that we bring their perspective when we have the requirements in place. So that had occurred, and I feel confident this particular approach will meet the larger extended expectations of the stakeholders.
That's great to hear, honestly, because this is, I know staff will benefit from this, but this is a major investment, more major maybe than we even thought when you put all the pieces together. And it's really for the community's benefit, those folks that have those projects. And so I definitely don't want a situation where we spend all this money and then we hear that it really didn't meet the needs of what those folks wanted to see. So that's really important to me.
As a matter of disclosure, there's always going to be some of that feedback, to be honest with you. But for the most part, we have included the larger context of the stakeholder expectations.
Okay, very good. Yeah, you're never going to please everyone. I understand that,
Yeah.
but within reason, I wanted to make sure that our process accommodated that, and this investment reflects that.
Okay, so moving on. County Manager, you want to cover the rest of the items?
Yeah, this is, the next 3 items are renewal of some of the existing software that we have in place. The next item is the renewal of the management system. This is for up to 2 years. Shelley and I assume this will be the last 2 years that we will have until we have the new system in place. And then we will need the renewal of the management system. Then we need to carry this until we get the implementation of the new software in place. The next item, item 9C, is similar in terms of continue to the yearly contract. There's a 40 net, and this is allows us for the connectivity, email quarantine, and firewalls that we currently use. That's the software that we utilize on a daily basis, and this is the yearly renewal. And last but not least is also for you to consider the renewal for the maintenance for the GOB QA. And this is, it allows you to track all the public records in a way, on the due dates, responses, and everything else, which that is something that we utilize again on a daily basis. All these contracts and the renewals are included on the upcoming budget, baseline budget. No additional revenues are required. And excuse me. And Sherry's here to answer any questions.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Master, questions?
No question.
Okay, no questions for me. Moving on to Public Works, item 10A, resolution and call for sealed bids for steel bridge fabrication for Thompson Creek Road Southeast at Thompson Creek Fish Passage Project.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a strategy the Public Works have exercised in the past related to the fish spear removal program, where we issue a request for proposals to secure the services for the manufacturer to give us to build a bridge. So when the time comes next summer, we will have that structure in place, and we will just have another contract for another contract to install it. So this is really helps in the delivery of those programs, those projects, and this particular request is for you to consider issuing bids to secure the services for the Thurston Creek culvert. This is a 8-foot culvert. It will be replaced with a prefabricated 7-foot bridge. The cost of the bridge itself is approximately $280,000 and is coming from the real estate excise tax too, which is already allocated from the budget. Marcus?
Good morning, Commissioners. Marcus Storvik, Senior Civil Engineer with Public Works. The only thing I would add is this project, when we go to construction, it will actually have some grant funding as well. We have 2 grants totaling $580,000 that will be used towards construction.
Okay, questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No chance we can use a railroad car or half a railroad car, is it? God. Okay, no questions, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Mensah?
No, thank you. I'm good.
Okay. So that will conclude our agenda. We will review our items. We do have a public hearing starting at 3:30 p.m. and that is community planning and economic development, public hearing for ordinance for adoption of A-22 boundary line adjustment.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This particular item has been reviewed by the Planning Commission back in August 17, 2022. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on September 21st, 2022. And the Planning Commission voted 7-2 to recommend approval of this particular item. The board discussed this on the October 19, 2022, and on October 21st, 2022, directed the staff to set the public hearing for today. And for your consideration will be for receive public testimony, and also included on your item is a recommendation for you to approve this item depending on the public testimony. So we have 2 actions for your consideration next week. Any additional perspective?
Thank you, County Manager. That was a good summary. I don't have much to add. I will say that it's an option for the board to take a final action following the hearing, but there's no requirement that they do so if you wish to have a follow-up briefing. We are happy to accommodate that.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
What was the recommendation from the Planning Commission?
I was to approve as presented with some, I think it was some recommendations, some comments. But I think I believe the board was agree on unanimously, I believe, to move forward with this item.
Thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Munzer?
Maya, can you remind me where the origin of this docket item is from? Was it staff? Was it hearing examiner? Was it a citizen? Where did this come from, this idea to make these changes?
Yeah, absolutely. So this docket item has been on our docket on and off for the better part of a decade, and it's to bring portions of our code up to speed with updates in Growth Management Act and state law. So it's a legal requirement. It was not necessarily staff brought it forward, but it's based on the legal need for it.
And the board just didn't prioritize it high enough to get it passed to the finish line?
That's right. It hasn't been highly prioritized over the past years.
There was,
Thank you.
I believe, a litigation related to that that resulted on us having to go through this process. Is that correct, Maya?
Yes.
No litigation in Thurston County, outside of the county, they put us in this position. Yeah.
Okay. And I don't have any questions. At 4:30, we will have a Board of Health meeting, and that will conclude our agenda for Tuesday, December 13th. Now, our next item on our agenda is review of the Board of Health draft agenda for a meeting on December 13th, 2022, and I will pass this to, do you want to take a break?
Yes, Madam Chair, if we could take a 20-minute recess, I could join you in the boardroom. I'm all done here at home, and that should give me enough time to get there.
Okay, so we'll go ahead. It's 10:20, and so we will adjourn until 10:40. Thank you. Board of Health draft agenda for a meeting of December 13th, 2022, and I'm passing this to the chair. Go ahead, Spencer.
Okay, so Board of Health will kick off at 4:30 p.m. Approval of agenda will be considered, and then we have several items under the presentation section. First being foundational public health funding. Kurt is listed as our key on that. So Kurt, why don't you tell us what we're going to cover?
So on this area, first of all, Commissioner Kurt Harden, Interim Director for Public Health and Social Services.
Have a delay on the audio. Can you start again, Kurt?
Okay, Kurt Harden, Interim Director for Public Health and Social Services. What we're going to do in this area is do an overview of foundational public health and then lay out the recommendations from staff for the Board of Health for recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners for obligating foundational public health funds. And we have a number of items that we're going to lay out for the Board of Health in that area.
The second sentence, you said lay out some obligations for funds. Can you expand on that a little bit? What the concept of this is?
Sure, absolutely. What that will be is currently there's a placeholder moving forward in the budget process. If that placeholder is adopted by the Board of County Commissioners on December 16th, then the Board of Health will make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners how to obligate funds for foundational public health services. And this funding came in from the state on July 1st of 2022.
So how does that piece relate to our overall foundational public health funding? Is this a subset of the new money, or is it all of the new money, or what is it that we're going to be putting for the Board of Health's consideration?
A subset of new money, but it's also going to give an overview of foundational public health so they can understand the different levels and the different buckets that the money is going to go into. And then it's going to briefly touch on year one, which was last year, and funding that was already obligated. And then it's going to propose recommendations to the Board of Health for the unobligated funding that the Board of County Commissioners can then take that recommendation and move forward.
Okay, I guess that's the key. And when you're using the term unobligated funding, and I just wanted to kind of clarify what that means for.
The board is recommended to obligate that funding as a placeholder, and then for the Board of Health then to make recommendations on that funding. But we did not have time to bring the Board of Health into the process when we started the midterm budget process.
Questions from board members?
No questions.
Okay, and let's look at item number 2, which would be an opioid settlement overview.
So on this one, staff is going to come forward, and I'm going to turn this over to Mary Ann. I'm glad to see you on here, Mary Ann. Thank you. And I'm going to let Mary Ann talk to this because it's going to be a process, 2 pieces on this process. One is the opioid plan, and that needs to be extended for approximately a year. And the other one is the opioid settlement. So Mary Ann, I'll let you talk to that.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Marianne O'Garo. I'm a senior epidemiologist at Thurston County Public Health and Social Services, and I'm speaking with you today as a person who oversees the opioid response program. And so this particular piece on your agenda is a presentation to give you and the extended Board of Health an overview of the opioid settlement process. And in March of this year, the Board of Health heard an update from Keller Rohrbach around the Thurston County lawsuit that is going forward. And so this gives an opportunity through David Cope to come and provide an update to the board about what is going on, so that the full new expanded board can understand what the county is doing around the settlement process, have everyone come up to speed with all of the new work that's been done, and get an update of where that's going, ask any questions that you'd like to have asked, And that was made possible by the Thurston County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. They made that possible. And that second piece that Director Harden mentioned is a little bit further down in the agenda, since that we're requesting a motion. And so I could go into that now or wait. I would defer to you.
Okay, so the speaker is one of the lawyers involved?
Yes, it is.
And so at this point in the agenda, we'll discuss the settlement, and then let's just wait then, and we'll get to the extension of the plan. We'll just go in
Okay.
order. Any questions about the settlement overview question? Okay, County Manager.
Thank you. Is the presentation going to be include the requirements that we need to form this regional approach as to how we need to distribute the money and expend the money?
We can cover the way that the state settlement works and how that affects the local Thurston County requirements. We have discussed that with the task force and can do that before the Kelly Robrax speaks or after, however you would like that to work. As part of the plan component, whatever you would like. We have that prepared.
Yeah, I think in either way, with my humble perspective, because it is important for the public to understand the county is going to be receiving some funding, but there's a lot of strings attached as to how we need to spend the money. And may not necessarily be within the context of Thurston County alone. It is a 5-county region that we need to embark on this task force. So I think it will be good to outline some of the requirements on the expenditure side.
Then what we could do, if that would, County Manager, is if we could go ahead and begin that presentation of just that component and then have Kelly Robrax speak. Would that make the most sense? Kind of go local and then that go into that piece.
I guess for the benefit of the other board members, would we kind of complete this whole discussion process once we're in session so that they don't miss out? Or are we going to talk about some of that now?
At this point, it's just reviewing the agenda, and you're not forming a quorum at this point. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, well, I guess for me, I'm going to be curious if there are strings attached to all the dollars that come through to the county, because it was my understanding that there was several different actions brought against those outfits. And sometimes, I mean, I know it's mostly talked about that this has been a public health issue, which it has been, but the reality is it's caused us a lot of problems out of our current expense budget having to do with jail and police and prosecution and those type of things as well. And I'm hoping that we look at it from a broad perspective of how the county taxpayers were stuck because of the action of these corporate folks.
And this is, I believe, is the settlement related to the distributors, and that was settled, and the money is coming to the county. There is another class action lawsuit pending, which is the manufacturers, and that is yet to be resolved. They may be result in yet another settlement, and we might be receiving money. But going back to your question, I think it will be good for the rest of the Board of Health members to understand how much money the county is going to be receiving and what are the strings attached and the expenditures.
Yeah.
To globalize the conversation, I believe is going to be extremely important for other board members to understand that.
Well, I'm a little confused. Isn't the way that the settlement's structured and the strings go right to what the guest speaker will be talking about the settlement?
No, I don't know I don't know if the speaker is going to talk about the process in which led to the settlement, because the distribution It's definitely not enough, he's gonna talk about the distribution.
Oh, because the settlement terms were then interpreted by state agencies.
Right, in the AG's office, I believe, is related to the distribution of that settlement to local governments.
Well, I don't see any, I mean, to me, it's more logical. I mean, I guess I'm trying to answer Mary Ann's query of whether or not we should switch the order, and I don't think so. I think it makes sense to have the background about the settlement, even if he stops at the point, you know, then we can talk about the need for the, okay, so let's just stick with that. Then let's go to, so hang on, Mary Ann, we'll get to you again here when we talk to about the opioid plan, but let's go to the Nisqually Reach Septic System Monitoring Program Review and reenactment. We're gonna go out with uniforms and reenact something?
Yeah, well, that's up to Art. I'll let him. What we'll do is, this is a piece on the Nisqually Reach, and I know it expires next year, and so that's why I was going to let Art talk a little bit more about it. But one of staff, Jane, is going to come in and talk in detail about that to the Board of Health. Art, you want to give a further background?
Yes, good morning. Again, I'm Art Starry, the Environmental Health Division Director for Thurston County Public Health and Social Services. And as Kurt indicated, the Nisqually Reach Special Septic System Monitoring and Maintenance Program, it's been in place for 9 years now, but it sunsets at the end of next year unless the board takes some sort of action to reenact it. It's been a very successful program, and what we're going to do at this, the Board of Health meeting, is Jane will give a quick overview of the program and what it's intended to do, provide some information on how successful it's been, and then talk about our plans for going forward and conducting public outreach and preparing options for the Board of Health to consider whether or not they want to reenact or renew the program. I mean, you know, I'm a bit biased here, but I think it's been a very successful program. It's accomplished its goals. And so I think reenacting it in some form makes a lot of sense, but ultimately that's a decision that the new Board of Health and the county commissioners will get to decide. And so because it is a fairly long process to, you know, to work with the public and to come to a reasonable conclusion in time for the budget process next year, we want to get started and wanted to, again, have an opportunity to talk to the board to let them know about that, or let you know about that, let the full board know about that, and to see if they have any initial feedback for us as we get started on the process.
Okay, very good idea to lay that out. Any questions?
No questions.
Makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Art.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, then we'll proceed on to, we got a lot of good items on this agenda. Next item is permitting street style food vendors. The pop-up, or I guess ordinance that changes that we made that were kind of a pilot till the end of the year. There's a draft policy for board's consideration, and Art, are you handling this one? I don't see Sammy.
Yeah, Sammy has a nastier version of the cold that I have, and so he's not available at the moment. So, and you probably noticed my background's a little different because I'm working from home today. And so what this is, you recall last year we had quite a few discussions about how to deal with what you referred to, Commissioner Menser, as pop-up food vendors, and those are folks who have temporary food establishments that they want to set up at different venues throughout the county at different times throughout the year. So we had a pilot program, excuse me, this past year, and Sammy now has some options, or has reviewed options, and wants to talk to the board about, I guess, a proposal for moving forward with that. So we think we have a path forward with that. So Sammy wants to be able to review that with you as the Board of Health. Excuse me. So to review that with you and to get some recommendations from the board.
Okay, well, we'll have to wait in suspense and see those. Any questions about the item? Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
Art, do you know, was there involvement by the vendors during the preparation of this ordinance?
I know that Sammy has reached out to the different vendors to see how they might apply to them, and he's gotten some feedback from that. I don't have that at hand, but I'll make sure that he brings that forward with him when we have that discussion with you.
Is it being proposed that we act on that ordinance at this particular meeting? That's, I guess,
we won't be asking you to take formal action, but to rather, I guess, give some direction, because there is some final policy work that needs to be done in order to enact a change in the procedures that we're talking about. If we believe it can be done within the current code, we don't need to, enact any code revisions or anything. It's a process of using what's called a variance process to be able to allow the operators to do what they would like to do, and basically operate at multiple venues throughout the year.
Okay, I'm just hoping that we've had enough adequate input from the vendors as we move forward. That's all that's my answer. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at as well, Commissioner Edwards. And I know that, I kind of want to hear from the people that it would affect. I guess we'll learn more about this at the next Board of Health meeting, and I guess we'll see where we go from there.
I have one other question. Go ahead. Are you done, Commissioner?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner. Will this action that we're taking, and has it been affecting the municipalities during this whole time as well? I mean, I know that's one of the things that Board of Health has is authority over those municipalities. So have they been involved in any way, shape, or form in this whole process or not? I mean, we're trying to include, some different positions on our Board of Health. So I'm just wondering.
So we
voice directly.
Yes. So Commissioner Edwards, as you indicated, the Board of Health does have jurisdiction over these matters. The Health Department and the Board of Health have jurisdiction over these matters within the cities. But as part of that, we do work with the cities to make sure that when a mobile food unit or a temporary event is taking place, that if it's within the jurisdiction of a city, that they're aware of it and that they're approving of it as well. So we do work pretty hard with those to make sure that we're not at cross purposes, because sometimes they may have concerns about parking or access or emergency services or things, and so or utilities, and so we do work with the cities to make sure that they're aware of and approve of the proposed food vendors.
Okay, thank you.
Might be something, I mean, it's not explicit, obviously, but I think that was part of the thought of the board adding a municipal rotating seat, and it might be something to discuss with Board Member Vasquez, that if we could ask her to sort of, if she feels appropriate, be that liaison, if she wants to touch base with, she's from Lacey, but if she wants to touch base with Olympia and Tumwater and kind of communicate that, that's kind of why we have that person on the Board of Health. So, because that was not a mandatory seat, but that was my thought process. County Manager.
I believe the presentation is going to include some of the what I call lessons learned. The successes of this program, the board directed a few months ago. I think we can build on that for next year as a lessons learned, and maybe provide the board with opportunities to how we can enhance it. And along with the process is working with the vendors as to how those strategies work in 2022, and also working with the vendors as to what the opportunities lies to enhance that program in 2023. I believe that is the genesis of this presentation, if I recall well.
Right. No, thank you, County Manager. Yes, so some of the things Sammy will be doing is talking a bit about the different things we've learned, and I guess kind of the successes and some of the challenges that have come out of this, and then how that has been used to, I guess, kind of guide the policy recommendations for you as the County Board of Health.
Okay, thank you, Art.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then I still have this, I'm looking at the clerk. I still do not want the public comment buried. Is there a reason? We have a template. Let's talk about this for a minute. So if I remember right, we have a template to this document that really can't be modified. And that's why public comment always has to follow presentations. And so it's a question of.
I can try manipulating the PDF to move it around after the fact. I wasn't really successful trying with it last time, but I can give it a
Well, what is it? I mean, presentations and department items, I mean, this really isn't all that well set up for a Board of Health anyway. And why does it matter what is called a presentation versus a department item?
It's how it pulls the information in from the AIS system. So if it's in there as a presentation, it will only populate in the presentation section. If it's in there as a department item, it will only populate as a department item. So they've structured this, the template itself is not very user-friendly, which is why we're trying to get kind of a management system. I'm in the process of looking for that, but
I'm gonna just then use my prerogative as chair to call for public comment at the beginning, and we can hit it in the middle as well if anybody popped in late.
You can certainly amend the agenda, yeah.
Yeah.
And this format has been a little bit of a challenge. And Jamie's a little bit, nice to describe the so that's something that we need to do in 2023. It's really looking holistically the format of this agenda because it's very restrictive. And just to address maybe your comments, what considers to be a department item versus presentation. Under normal circumstances, we have added a department item when we asked the Board of Health to take an action. On the presentations, really it's not. It's just, but
Okay, that's fine, but I want the power to move public health ahead of presentations, and I don't care if that requires a motion by the board to amend or some new software.
No, we need, the technical aspects we need to work in 2023. You have absolutely prerogative as to how you want to manage your agenda.
Because there's people that just can't spend, this is a lot of information. I mean, if somebody logged in to give public comment, they'd be waiting an hour or more to get through those 4 items. Those are huge items. Kurt, you look like you started to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we could make the justification to take all those presentations, relabel them as department items, which would then push public comment to the front. And I don't see any downside to doing that because then even the agenda would be correct. And that way the public would tune in at the beginning.
All right, Jamie says we're good on that, so let's do that. I agree. Okay, so then, so that'll be moved, and then we'll get to, we'll go from pop-up vendors to the opioid response plan update, back to Mary Ann to talk about what, as I understand it, this relates to requirements of the settlement, and let us explain to us what this is about.
Thank you.
Chair.
Oh, sorry, that's a question.
Yeah, sorry, I was just wondering why the opioid settlement overview and the Thurston County opioid response plan update.
Well, I can answer that. So the thought was, and I'm just answering for staff, the thought was one was more informational and this one we're gonna take an action. So, but now in light of this last conversation, I think maybe we can reshuffle them and put them together. If we're not gonna make that distinction, we're gonna treat them all as department items, then we should take them, we should move this item to number C, or it would then be 4C. You got that, Jamie? Because that was an artificial separation, trying to say, well, this is an action, this is informational, but we're breaking that down, so.
Yeah, and so that way, Mary Ann's earlier question has been addressed.
Yep, we'll address that. Okay, but here we are for this point. Let's go with the response plan item.
Thank you. And so that I'll make those adjustments to put those items together. That's one direction I've heard. And so to address that component that or hopefully address what you were mentioning for the Board of Health, in part, what we're trying to do then also, which the task force that you have put together has also asked for your consideration, is that the current 2021-2022 opioid response plan is working well. The strategies that are on that plan, which is over 20 plus strategies in 6 areas, the strategies are from their view the appropriate strategies. Some need additional emphasis. They need continued work. They like them. They want them to continue. And so rather than do a complete process of updating that plan, they have reviewed that, they've talked about that, and what they would like to recommend to you is that the 2023 calendar year be an extension of the current plan. That way, from what you were just discussing from the settlement perspective, we have a plan, we have a current plan. As that settlement money works its way through, we have a plan to refer to, whether that be grant opportunities or alignment. These strategies are the ones that community members and your task force is recommending that we be working on. But for you to know, they would like to take a look at and do a community process next year once we know more about the settlement for the 2024-2025 plan. But they are recommending that you consider as a Board of Health pending the current plan. And so that's what has been put forward. They would like to do new SMART objectives. They have included in the presentation a series of people that they believe have done and organizations that have done some exceptional work to move the plan forward. And for your consideration of just highlighting how well that structure is working. And I think I would stop there because I don't know if Director Harden has anything to add or if County Manager Chavez has anything to add. I'll stop right there.
Okay. The only thing I would further on add is that the extension of the plan into 2023, as a quick summary, allows us to be in compliance with the settlement that is coming down, and also be able to restructure the plan next year if necessary, based on the settlement funding that's coming towards Thurston County, and maybe make some other changes. But it gives us 2023 as a year to go through the plan and update it if necessary.
Board member questions. Board member Evans.
I really don't know who this question is for, if it's Kurt or Mary Ann, but just using this as an example, this discussion that we're having today, I haven't heard anything about fentanyl. And fentanyl has become an extension of those that can't get opioids, you know, those people that are addicted. So is there any way we can include fentanyl in at least the subject matter of what we're discussing? And the reason I bring this up, we had a report from the coroner yesterday, and we're over 130 deaths this year that are related to fentanyl. Most of those deaths are related to fentanyl. Yet we aren't taking any action that I'm aware of to interdict this particular blight on our young people. So how can we make this fit? I don't know how many strictly opioid deaths that we had, but we've been dealing with this opioid problem for the last 10 years, say, but we've not had anything like we're seeing now or over the last few years. So I'm trying to equate an importance factor, if you will, on the fentanyl problem and focus on that particular problem somehow. It seems like we're just overlooking it. So, I don't know, do you have any comment on that, Mary Ann, or do you disagree, or have I got my wires crossed? What's going on here that we're not looking at fentanyl as a major problem in our community?
So I would say a couple things, because I work in different realms than where you sit and what you hear. The concerns you hear are the same concerns I hear. And the work that we're doing may not, obviously are not reaching you. And I'm sorry for that. What I would say is a couple things. One of the things that we are doing and is changing some of the way that our funding, so I'm speaking specifically about the health department. So other people are doing other work. But one of the things that we just did is reach out to one of our partners, the state health department, and Director Harden is will be looking at this statement of work, changing the way that we're doing fact-based drug education to address fentanyl. And so we were able to get the State Department of Health to consider changing some of how our overdose data to action funding, which comes to us as a department, is coming to us to specifically address fentanyl, and they agreed. And so they are changing our statement of work and just sent that to us so that we can be focused on exactly what you're saying, which is younger adults and older teenagers in particular as well, around what this particular what this means for our community, and so that we can do some of that education and expand that education so that folks understand what that means. Because of what you're saying, exactly what you're saying, people don't understand that youth and young adults are using fentanyl intentionally. It's not that it's laced. It is laced, but they're also using it intentionally and also increasing an understanding. And that's one of the things that we have done is changed our overdose education and training that we do with schools, with workplaces and other things, because folks were not understanding that naloxone, Narcan, works on fentanyl, but you need more doses. So we changed our training and are also working with Ben Miller Todd on doing a 911 community awareness campaign. We just got money for that. That was one of his suggestions, looking through Medic One and other data, to do PSAs, because you need to call 911 faster. You need to call it first and then administer Narcan. So some of these things aren't reaching you, and I do apologize for that, but exactly what you're saying. There's a lot that needs to be done, because the majority of deaths are fentanyl related. So I absolutely agree with you, and more. That's one of the recommendations, and more in 2023.
And if I could dovetail on Mary Ann's comments, I think this is a very complex issue, and there's more than just a 30-second soundbite to be able to give it to the Board of Health. I would recommend that we have a totally separate subject in January's agenda, because we are already going to be providing a lot of information on the opioid response plan and a lot of other areas here in December. And I think we might get information overload if we try to put everything into this presentation, but I would recommend that we do bring the fentanyl discussion point in January, because I think it requires some more stakeholders to be part of that as well. Because like Mary Ann said, it's not just public health. It is public health is coordinating in the center of this, but there's a lot of other stakeholders involved as well.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Kurt. And the means and methods to reach out to the board members through formal briefings. And staff has a responsibility to schedule those briefings. So I appreciate your perspective on that, Kurt. A formal briefing next year will be on point.
So at this point, Kurt, I'm going to ask you something. So I'm looking back at my notes from our agenda pre-meeting. There were the 2 opioid items in foundational public health. We now have noxious weeds, pop-ups, septics, and nurse family partnership. We've gone from 2.5 to 6.5 items. Is there a possibility that the septic thing, which I understood is really laying the foundation for next year's budget, could go on to the January meeting? Because I think this is too ambitious of an agenda, and everything else here looks time sensitive.
I was going to say, Commissioner, you're absolutely right. I was going to talk about the mission creep that's happened since we did agenda setting discussion.
Got something.
Yeah. Anyway, we've identified that the food pop-up. I talked with Art, and the food pop-up and the noxious weed can be deferred to next year, January's agenda. We really, the contract piece here for amendment number 5 for the Lewis County contract needs to happen. Okay. I would like to see if we can keep that, and that shouldn't take very long. But I think that obviously needs to happen. We can take 2 items, the food pop-ups and the noxious weed, defer those, but the others, we can defer, I believe, the Nisqually piece reach out as well, but the Nisqually Reach septic system monitoring, but it's going to really put us in a crunch if the board provides policy guidance that we have to enact, it's going to put staff in a crunch to try to get all that done next year in addition to the budget cycle.
All right, well, I'll defer to your suggestion, but I do like the idea of 2 of these items moving to January.
Okay.
So if those are the 2, then let's do those 2.
Okay, and next time I'll try to do a better job of controlling mission creep.
Well, it's great. I mean, I'm really excited to see some of these really good items, and I don't want to rush through them is the thing. The Board of Health with new members needs to have time to ask questions and hear the details of some of these things, especially like, these things like the septic monitoring program, the noxious weed prescriptions. I mean, I still have questions about noxious weed prescriptions and how they're done. I guarantee you the new Board of Health members will want to hear about how that even works.
If I may, board member, I appreciate Kurt's suggestion to move the noxious weeds to next month. But I would hope that perhaps the presentation should be more about understanding the process as to how a prescription comes to be. So I don't think it's just moving the item for next month's agenda and expect the Board of Health just to approve the new prescriptions without having the background as to who is involved, how that goes through the process of vetting a new prescription. I think it will be extremely important for the Board of Health to understand that process before you may consider approving new prescriptions.
Well, I had the same kind of, it seems like a really heavy, just,
It's not how I left it.
it seems really ambitious. Again, we have a lot of new members, and my concern is bombarding them with just a whole array of topics from, pop-up vendors to opioid settlements to noxious weeds to septics. It's gonna be like a fire hose for sure. So I'm in agreement to Mr. Spencer on this. To see if there's a possibility to, if there's things for, the noxious weeds permit, I think that one's a really heavy, the prescriptions is a really heavy topic. It usually is, and there's usually a lot of questions and, do we have to approve the prescriptions by January? Is that or can we have a briefing in January, and then if we approve it in February, it's okay?
I'll defer to Mike. I know he's on the call here to be able to talk to that. My understanding was we could defer it, but I'll let Mike talk to it specifically.
Yes, that's fine. We can definitely do it in January. We don't need the prescriptions approved before the spring, really. So.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, then let's go with that plan, Kurt. And let's talk about the Lewis County. We won't even talk about noxious weed today. We'll talk about that, but let's get through item 5.
Okay.
It looks like there's action required there.
Correct. And I'll turn this over to Gretchen to be able to speak to that.
Good morning, Commissioners. Gretchen Toller, Thurston County Public Health Maternal Child Health Nurse Line Partnership Division Director. And this is amendment number 5 for our contract with Lewis County Public Health to deliver nurse family partnership services to the residents of Lewis County. And it is the same staffing level for 6 years. The only difference is it has increased, now I can't remember the exact amount, I want to say by around $11,000 this year.
Any questions?
No questions.
Okay, thanks, Gretchen.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, and then we'll have a report now. Kurt, we talked about a report, infectious disease report. You're muted.
Yeah, the infectious disease report. We were going to look at having that as part of Dr. Abdamalik's health officer report to try to keep it condensed on the agenda items.
Got it. Okay.
You want it as a standing agenda item?
No, that's fine. I just was I'm just cross-referencing my notes from our prep meeting, and I just want to make sure that didn't get missed, or if it did, there was a reason. So Dr. Abdamalik will cover that. Sounds good. Any questions before we move on? Go ahead.
You know, I have one question. Could I ask Art about the Nisqually issue?
He's still there, yep.
Art, didn't we extend this one time before?
So what, good afternoon, no, it's still morning. Okay, so what you did, Commissioner Edwards, is you extended the Henderson program, which is the sister program to Nisqually, 3 years ago. That program would have expired at the end of 2017 if it wasn't extended by the board.
Yeah, okay.
So that program worked pretty well. So we created a sister program in Nisqually, and so now it's almost run its 10-year time frame, and now it needs to be reenacted or else it goes away.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
No, thank you.
Okay, back to you, Madam Chair.
Okay. We're gonna have a long day on December 13th.
Yeah, I guess I would, one last thing, I would direct the clerk, when you send materials out to the board, maybe give a heads up that we expect maybe a longer than normal meeting.
Okay.
Plan accordingly.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll try to hopefully get through the Board of County Commissioners meeting on time and then jump onto the public hearing. That way we can start Board of Health on time and not be here until 8 p.m. So
Andrew's also not anticipating a whole lot of public comment from the boundary line adjustment either, so hopefully that one goes quick.
Okay, so going back to our agenda, next is proclamations and awards and advisory boards and commissions, and I'll pass this to our clerk of the board, Jan Pablo.
So good morning. I have no updates for the proclamations and awards. For the boards and commissions, your packet includes the standing items for the Agricultural Advisory Committee. The committee got back to me with an appointment recommendation, and they are currently requesting that the board not appoint either applicant. They indicated that they have another person that they're actively trying to recruit and get to submit an application, and they think that person would be a better fit than the current two applicants. I've also included newly received applications for the Agritourism Advisory Committee, Current Use Advisory Committee, and the Timberland Regional Library Board of Trustees. All three are recommending appointment, reappointment as requested.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Messer? Okay, so for the Agricultural Advisory Committee, I'll start with that one. Has the other person that they're hoping, have they applied?
They have not applied. They indicated that this person has regularly attended meetings and committees and been a part of committees and is more up to speed than the current two applicants, and they're encouraging this person to apply. I don't know if this person will actually apply though. So they're just currently asking that you hold on making an appointment on these other two. I can check with them if you choose to do so. I can check with them in January and see if they've gotten an application. If not, you guys are more than welcome to make a choice at that time. Or if you'd like to, you appoint from what you currently have.
How many slots are there?
There's one.
One non-farmer position available. We have two applicants. I know that whenever we've had vacancies, they've been very outspoken about us filling those positions, as, you know, and so, yeah, I guess we'll wait till January if there's no application.
Okay.
I think we need to move forward on the applications that we have on hand. I think from now on until January is enough of a time to see whether that person actually wants to be a part of the committee or if they just want to keep just attending as, you know, they see fit and not be an actual appointed member. Is that good for commissioners?
That's fine.
Okay, next for the Agritourism Advisory Committee, it's a reappointment for Robbie Rutledge. And are commissioners ready to move forward on that appointment?
I am.
This is a fully staffed committee, I don't see.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
But there's only one applicant for this.
He's currently sitting and he's just requesting reappointment.
Fine with that.
I've attended some of the advertising advisory meetings, and they're a well-oiled machine, I would say. And they run pretty smoothly, and I know they require like certain members there, just especially, they work a lot with the Bountiful Byway and things like that, and they've been very active on that, so.
Does anybody know, his application says he's been running a working farm and agritourism business the last 15 years.
Yeah, the
Rutledge Corn Maze.
Oh, Rutledge. Over on 93rd, yep. I'm familiar. I've been there. Very good.
So with that, on the 13th,
We'll add that on the consent agenda.
yeah, so we'll add that to the 13th. And then I have questions on the current use advisory committee.
So these applications originally came forward a little bit towards the beginning of this year, possibly the end of last year, if I'm recalling correctly. And I don't remember, I think it may have been COVID that caused a pause on these. I got contacted by the staff contact with the assessor's office, because this is where that umbrella falls under, and requested that I get a hold of the application or applicants that they all had to see who was still interested, because so much time had passed. The 5 listed have indicated that they are still interested in serving, and in order for them to actually meet with this committee, they have to have 5 seats filled.
So are these reappointments then, or are they new appointments?
I believe they're appointments, is my understanding.
So who are the members that are currently sitting on
I
that?
believe these spots are vacant. I can double check on this because I was a little fuzzy on it. But I'm pretty certain that they.
A new committee that honestly, I didn't know it existed. It was not until the assessor.
Making me feel better because I was like,
You're not
remember
alone. And it was up to the assessor brought this to our attention that I had the same questions that all of you have.
Can I ask for more information on what this committee is? Since it's like, I don't have.
I can request that Sarah set up an appointment with the staff contact if that would be helpful.
Yeah, just.
How about somebody from the assessor's office coming forward?
Can we have some language from the assessor's office to
Yeah,
what the intended purpose
we
is?
have one for each of the committees. It would be great to have kind
That
of.
would be good, and then we'll distribute to the board, and then if you have additional questions, then we can arrange those meetings.
Yeah,
That would be good.
just because I don't know how many appointments, if it's 5, and I don't know anything about this, so, more information for this one would be great.
It has something to do with agriculture and space.
Yeah, that's.
According to the people's applications of why they want to serve.
Well, we have one on here that's,
Current use tax breaks.
it's,
It's kind of like timber tax, open space, that kind of
I
stuff.
remember we had 2 agricultural advisory committees, and one was for current use, and there was 5 members, and they were all like, they had been serving on that specific board for a very long time. But then it kind of dropped off, and I'm not sure if it was because of COVID or, but I remember it being listed on it. Because we had questions on, why do we have 2 agriculture advisory committees? And I was like, well, one is run by the assessor's office, but we didn't really have enough information on it. So I'm trying to connect the dots and thinking maybe that might be it. And it's probably in one of my stacks of paper that I
Those
have.
are all good questions, so we'll follow up.
There's a new one coming up now too. It's a senior advisory group that we need to put together too for the assessor. No, it's just, I'm making that up. It's just, all it is just, it is another group that recommends whether or not they ought to get this tax break. That's what it's all about.
And then for the Timberland Regional Library Board of Trustees appointment, I guess since that's a Lewis County representative, we just have to kind of rubber stamp that. So if we can just go ahead and add that for the 13th on the consent agenda.
You
If
just need to
Commissioner
reaffirm that.
reaffirm it. Okay, so we've added 2 matters onto the 13th. consent agenda, and that's for Brian Zylstra, and that's a Lewis County representative, and the Agritourism Advisory Committee for Robbie Rutledge. And that's a reappointment. For our Agriculture Advisory Committee, we will be waiting until January. And if there's no new applicants, we will be proceeding in appointing either one of these two applicants. And then with our current use advisory committee, we will be getting more information on that. Okay, thank you. Next is our PIO check-in.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter. Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. Just a couple updates for you. So we're ramping up the website redesign project, and it will be a big focus for the web in offices and departments after the beginning of the year. We are still on track to go live with the new site at the end of February. A lot of work's going into getting the new conference room ready at the atrium. We will be starting meetings and live streaming in that room in the atrium downstairs at the beginning of the year, and that transition will happen over the last of the year. So we'll have contractors coming in, moving the sound equipment and everything over to the. And then lastly, our public information specialist, Brian Dominique's last day is tomorrow. I just wanted to recognize Brian's contribution to the office during his time here and wish him good luck in his new endeavor. Pending any questions, that's what you have.
Questions, comments? Commissioner Everett?
No question, thank you.
Commissioner Munson?
Will there be, this might go to the county manager, but will there be change, like what can we expect at the new space in terms of how we do things here versus how we'll do things there, you know, in terms of audio? I mean, are we gonna, for agenda setting, are we gonna be on the floor and tables, or?
Yes.
And we're gonna use this system, this ambient
Yeah,
mic system?
we will be a little bit different in microphones. I think we have an
We will not
upgrade
be
of,
using microphones.
so we're gonna be an upgrade of microphones, meaning new technology that actually focus on the speaker and tunes out the background, which is gonna be more effective.
Even when we're on the dais, that'll be the.
Yes, it will be that type of system. You will see the similar TV type of scenario. We are working on the same setting that you will have your regular, this type of meetings you will have on the floor, and your formal meetings will be at the dais. And there's perhaps gonna be a little delay because we didn't quite order the tables that we needed. So they send the works to have the tables. So there may be a little bit of a transition, but that is the intent.
Okay, cool.
It will bring all that, what you see in here, the three posters, the mission and vision, as well as the county logo will be moving to the new location. So it will be pretty much familiar to you, except for the new and expanded room.
Okay, thank you.
I wanna wish Brian the best of luck. I saw that, there was the Friday 5 is going to be paused until we can get, and I know that newsletter was very popular among folks, and so excited for him and his new chapter, but sad to see him go.
Thank you for saying that. I do want to make sure that people know that the Friday 5 is paused. It will come back once we get someone hired and onboarded. Social media will probably slow down a little bit as well. It's a really big undertaking for one person, so it's a big undertaking for two. But it's a lot for one, so we will get back into it though once we hire somebody.
I do have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Do we still have a media person over in planning? Is there still a position over there?
We've never had one over there, a PIO. We do have some
Somebody
education
that was
people.
involved when we were working on the HCP.
Yes, so she's only dedicated to the HCP though.
And so I don't understand what's going on there. I mean, somebody only dedicated to the HCP. That's what,
Because of the money, it's the grant funding money.
but I hope they're doing something else besides HCP. I mean, I don't know if I want to talk about that, if that's the
We're
case.
trying to find resources in the meantime, working with Robin on this. I think Carly has volunteered a little bit in this spot. She's gonna help supplement a little bit of that while we find a permanent position. So we're working on
Doing something to,
something to keep moving.
Get a
But
fix going.
some elements will have to stay put until we can get the new Brian.
Yeah, Public Works is down 4 communication staff as well.
4?
4 out of their 5. And so we need to rebuild the communications for the county.
Okay, is Brian's, the PAT position, is that posted up?
I'm hopeful that it'll be today. I'm waiting to get confirmation from Katie on that, but I've reviewed it and we should be getting it posted very soon.
Great. Okay, moving on to legislative update, county's 2023 legislative agenda. Next
This
step.
is going to be brief. On your packet is the final county's legislative agenda. So the next steps next week are going to be working with the RMID to set some meetings with the commissioners and the legislative delegation and start talking about the legislative agenda. So
Okay. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No, questions, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Mensah?
No.
Okay. Oh, how did the shared legislative meeting go? Robin and Commissioner Edwards?
Yeah, it was good. I don't even talked about, you missed a dinner, but it was hard to find. I will say it was darn hard to find over at the college campus. It was in a little.
it's always difficult, especially.
I don't know how they happened to pick the spot, but it was tough to find. It was snowing like the dickens when it went on. So I'm not sure we had 100% participation, but it was a good turnout and everybody's working from the same sheet of music. So I think we're well served by that group.
Thank you so much for attending that. Okay, briefing public hearing decisions pending. There is none at this time, so that is 11:43. Other commissioner items.
And you do have a day-long planning session scheduled for Friday, so and we'll have already posted the agenda for that.
So,
Just a reminder.
commissioners, anything? That is an emergency before our
Nothing's
planning?
an emergency. The only thing I had here, and I'm sorry, because all my stuff's at the other office, and we got a communication from a group of citizens about good governance principles and whatnot, and I don't know if that was ever seen by the board or there was anything in there that was of interest or for discussion. If I had it in front of me, I made some notes on it, and I don't, so I apologize.
I received a couple of emails on that. I need to look in detail what's the.
Lynn Fitzhugh was one of the people I remember, I think the email came from, but she was representing a broader group of folks that had met and came up with some recommendations for us. It was about processes and stuff. It's just something, maybe if I flag that and we could talk about it later time, if there's anything there for us to chew on.
Yeah, let me go back to this.
Didn't want that to slip through the cracks.
I remember
A month ago, maybe.
receiving a couple of emails from different individuals about that.
So, yeah, the Local Good Governance Coalition.
Local Good Governance Coalition, there you go. I printed it out and I went through it, I made some notes, but we haven't had a chance to discuss anything since then, so my memory's fuzzy.
Okay.
But can talk about it later.
Okay. Commissioner?
No, I'm good. We're gonna get out of here early, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't have my planner up.
One other thing, do we have, I think we're gonna have an opportunity as a timber county. I think we're gonna have an opportunity to place a vote as a county. And they allow fractionalized votes, but regarding a recommendation for being a designee from WASAC to the Board of Natural Resources. And that there's a forum for the candidates next week, I believe, and we may be on a short, I think they want to send a name up like at the first of the year. So I want to flag this because we may be on a short timeline to produce a vote. And I don't have a.
Are you volunteering for that?
Are you
Well,
volunteering?
I don't even know, no, I'm not volunteering. I don't know who the candidates are, and I certainly would want to watch the candidate form before I form any
Was
opinion
that
about
part
it.
of the discussion at the WASA conference?
Well, no, because it was, Bill Peach was in it, and then it was before, like, elections were certified, so I guess that's why they,
He's from up in Clallam County.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's been there for a while, and he either didn't win or he's retiring or something, but he's off, and Wasac needs a new representative.
There's
And
probably gonna be somebody, or at least should be, from a highly timbered area or something, I suppose, because we've only got a little piece of that, don't we, or what?
well, we've got, I don't know where our acreage falls in the, I mean, we've got a fair number of acres.
Well, the DNR up in the Capitol Forest and
Well,
stuff.
I'm not volunteering to serve, but I am gonna be interested in voting as a county for the best person, so
well,
I'm
we
just
get
trying
one
to,
vote, right?
I'm not necessarily trying to discuss that, because I don't even know who's running, but I'm just flagging this to the county manager, because with us having, you know, all this budget stuff and then no meetings for a couple weeks, we may have to like address this and vote
I
before.
attended the WASAC meeting, and I think it was a couple nominations for.
That was for another one. That was for another position, and it was for forest, it was for something else, but it
Yeah,
was
a
for another committee, and we were
Yeah.
trying, like,
A federal, there's an advisory committee being formed about federal lands, and they wanted volunteers for that, that's different.
but from my understanding on how the process works is the board of directors for Wasac are gonna be the ones voting, which you're the representative for Thurston County anyways.
So no, that's what I thought too, and I did follow up on this, and it's each timber county, and I don't remember how many there are of those, gets a vote. So we vote, and we can, they'll fractionalize it, I guess. So if we can't agree, 2/3 of Thurston County could vote for person A, and 1/3 of Thurston County could vote for person B, if that's how we want. I think that's how they'll do it. If we're all united, then we can vote for a person, but it's a Thurston County vote.
Oh,
Okay, I'll follow up. Sarah just send me an email and additional information, so your assistant.
If
So
we
I
can
will
look
follow
into
up.
this and see.
Maybe reach out to Eric Johnson to give an additional perspective. Yeah, thank you.
yeah, so when is the
can tell you that.
candidate forum?
I believe it's middle of next week, let's see.
Boy, that's coming up quick.
Yeah. Usually with these appointments, there's such a quick turnaround.
I'm not even seeing it. It's the 14th, Thomasina just texted me, and I don't know why I'm not seeing it on my calendar. Because I had it on my calendar. 11 a.m. on the 14th, so a week, what's today, Tuesday? A week from tomorrow at 11 a.m. Shoot, yeah, so I've got like, I'm triple booked, so that's why.
Let's see, a week from tomorrow is the 13th?
It's the 14th, you say?
The
So it's a week from tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Board of Natural Resources Candidate Forum. Yeah, it's on my calendar, so I'll be there.
Well, I'll have to watch it. I'm gonna be in.
The timeline recap says that by December 9th, nominations are due to WASA.
And then candidate forum is December 14th at 11 a.m.
And December 14th.
So they're gonna have the forum.
WASA meeting will nominate.
No, the
interested
nominations. Whoever gets nominated then will probably be invited to appear at a virtual thing and answer questions from the Timber County commissioners, and then there'll be some vote like by the end of the year, I think. I just don't want us to get caught where we don't even have a chance to discuss it, or because of our schedule and the compressed nature of
On
this.
the meeting of the 14th, as I read it, it's a WASAC meeting for nominee interest statements and ballots sent via email to each eligible county board or county chair. So the nominations will have to come as a result of the December 14th meeting. And then by December 28th is the ballots are back to WASAC. And WASAC will certify the elections by December 12th.
So we have like a commissioner check-in on the 15th?
So what
we
we-
do, maybe we can make that a topic of
Yeah,
discussion.
we can probably have, yeah,
And
absolutely.
if we can, and I'll go home Wednesday night and watch the video, if there is one, hopefully. Commissioner Mejia will watch it, hopefully
Yeah.
Commissioner Edwards can watch it.
Because
And then we
that's
can
what,
discuss our vote.
The timeline said that the 14th WASAC meeting is where they're gonna be vetting the applicants and be submitting potential applicants for you to vote on it.
But I'm just guessing that the 15th is our last
Yeah.
opportunity to have that discussion and make that decision, so I just
Thank you
want
for
to.
using this.
I guess I'd bring up one other thing. It's been a concern of mine, long time concern of mine, and that's application of chemicals in the forest area to enhance growth, which is detrimental to water quality. So,
Good question to ask of the applicants, maybe you get a chance to put in
Yeah.
chat,
That's a good
I don't know what the format of that is. See what their positions are.
and that board does do some regulatory process over, ecology issues the license and they oversee it. So, which I think is a mistake, it's all about money. And that's where the problem lies, I believe. But I couldn't get the state to even look up in the chutes drainage on our deal, so I'm kind of fighting an uphill battle on the issue, I guess, so.
We all are fighting an uphill battle at DNR.
And I'm gonna be having an executive session next week related to the whole settlement. So,
Okay,
related to the appeal, the board authorized in terms of the timber cruising.
Okay, yeah.
The timber activities on.
Yeah, something.
Something.
commissioners? Are we good?
All right.
Okay, it is 11:52. We are adjourned. Again, we will be picking up at 1:30 with public hearings, and they'll be going on till
7 o'clock.
7.
7, the last one? 6 p.m. is
The beginning of the last.
the beginning of the last one. So, hope to see you then.